Ruckus, and this is, the title says, is my ROH DVD review of Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor 6. This happened in New York City a couple months ago. Well, not a couple months ago. This happened quite a while ago. I'm just now getting ready to, getting around to doing it. It happened August 2nd. And it was released, I think, sometime in September. And I just am now getting around to it. I've had the DVD for a while, but I reviewed it, or I watched it to review it, and then, or I watched it, and then was going to review it, and then just didn't get around to it, and then every time I was going to review it, because so much time passed, and I wanted it fresh in my mind when I reviewed it, and then I didn't end up watching it again. And finally today I did wind up watching it again. So yeah, so let's actually get this reviewed. As I wanted to get as much of the Ring of Honor stuff that I have caught up before this coming Friday, which will be Black Friday, when I'm doing this review. So I wanted to get as much of that done as possible. So there we go with that. Anyways, we opened it up as this was from Hammerstein Ballroom, and I love the way they have it set up as far as the hard camera angle goes for the Hammerstein Ballroom, even with Ring of Honor's production values, because it just makes it look like they're in this big giant arena. It makes it look much bigger and grander than it probably really is. I've never been there, but it does make it look just like a big deal that they're there, and it is for the most part a pretty big deal. So I must say that right off the bat. Next, we opened the show up with the Briscoe brothers versus Jigsaw and Ruckus. This was pretty much what you would expect, kind of a spotty, but fun, just a good little opener to get the fans into it and kind of wake the fans up a little bit. This worked out really well in my opinion, with both teams basically just going out there and doing a little bit of a spot fest match. 2 3/4 stars. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, but you know, I'm a Briscoe's mark, so what you gonna do? Next we had Sweet and Sour come out in full force for the most part. Well, not full force, but they came out, did kind of their thing, talking about Brent Albright, and then Chris Hero was talking about Brent Albright, and the only reason that Delirious beat him was because of Brent Albright. So there was that. So he called out Delirious again, and Chris Hero versus Delirious. This was okay, 2.5 star match. Nothing horrible. Was more of a angle progression by I would say in a match for both characters. But it was what it was. Next, and then they called out Roderick Strong to take on Eddie Edwards, and this was pretty good. This match was used very much to put over Edwards, and was pretty well done. Had a bit of a finish in my opinion. I didn't really buy into Edwards as being as good as Strong, but it was what it was. Like I said, it wasn't anything too bad, but it wasn't anything too good either. Told a pretty good story though, and was enjoyable. 2 3/4 stars. Then Brent Albright came out to not a huge fanfare, but definitely the fans were kind of like eh. You could tell you got the basic Repo Man chant, but that was what it was. Talking about being the NWA champion. Then Brent Albright came out, and they said instead of doing their match later for the NWA championship, they would do it now. They did it. This was awesome. I could not believe this. This is the match that when this took place, everybody got on the internet that was at this show and basically said Brent Albright and Adam Pearce stole the show on this show, and no one freaking believed it. And then I watched the show, and then people started watching the show, and they freaking started believing it. This was awesome, old school, just good stuff. I will say this, and it's interesting that I watched this, and then right after I watched this DVD, I guess a couple of weeks later after I watched this DVD, is when Gabe got fired. And this match was booked very well. The pacing of this match was was very well done. Like I said, it was much more of an old school Southern match that worked really well. It won the fans over. When the fans started, not to say the fans weren't into the match, but it was definitely like, okay, yay, this is fun. Let's just go ahead and get this over with. And then they ended up being so into this, it wasn't even close. I mean, this was just, they were insanely into this. Built up good. Just really, really good stuff. And definitely, this match alone is worth the price of this DVD. As weird and crazy as that sounds, and you know, the NWA just, as I'm making this, just got done. I think it was last week or maybe the week before, doing their TV tapings. If they could have if by some chance they were able to get this match on their TV tapings, even if maybe the quality isn't quite up to what maybe they want as far as video quality, I still think it would be something to put on there, because this is the type of match that if the NWA could have even, you know, 4 or 5 matches like this a year, it would definitely bring some, you know, or at least people would want to see an NWA title match a little bit more. Just kind of throw out that on there. But just really, really awesome stuff. Match of the night, believe it or not. 4 1/4 stars. Just really good stuff. Next we go to Austin Aries and Jimmy Jacobs versus the Necro Butcher. This was another storyline match. Where Austin Aries had been trying to get into Necro Butcher's head, but at this point it was still Necro Butcher was still part of the Age of the Fall, and so for most of the match it was Jimmy Jacobs and Necro Butcher versus Austin Aries, with Jimmy Jacobs basically bossing Necro Butcher around, until finally, due to some trickery by Austin Aries' part, Necro turned on Jimmy, and it worked out pretty well. It was, like I said, it was definitely more of a storyline match. It wasn't bad, but it was just kind of I would say it was just kind of there, really. Okay match, 2.5 stars. Then we got Marufuji versus Go. This was great, as you would probably expect from these two. Just really good, fun counters, hard hitting, just stuff we had not probably seen too much before. Liked this a lot. 4 stars, great stuff. Yeah. Next we got Steen and Generico versus Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. This was probably when this card was announced, this was the match most people thought would probably steal the show. Didn't quite do that, but it was still a very good match. 3 3/4 stars. The fans were way into this match at the start before the bell rang, and the bell rang, and they weren't so much into it. Then they got into it as kind of the match went on. But not that this was bad, but it was, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would say, wow, man, that sounds kind of low, but it really wasn't. It was a very good match. Just didn't quite have what you'd probably expect from these two teams, but still very good, very enjoyable. And then we had the main event: Nigel McGuinness, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Tyler Black in an elimination title match. Very good match done this way. This is where Claudio basically turned heel. For those of you that have seen the pay-per-view already and wondered when Claudio turned heel, it was here. He got frustrated. Bryan Danielson beat him. He got frustrated with being beat by Bryan Danielson and went crazy on Bryan Danielson. Nigel McGuinness then basically, you know, picked the bones of Bryan Danielson after he'd already been beaten to shreds and with a chair shot by Claudio. And so after that, we got Tyler Black versus Nigel McGuinness, which isn't bad at all. This was very good, very well booked for one of these types of matches. 4 stars. Nigel still regaining to much of the hatred of the fans, which the closing segments is very, very cool, actually, in a kind of strange way, as Nigel's in the ring getting pelted with drinks and trash, and basically saying he's going to be the NWA or the ROH champion forever. Pretty good closing moment, if you ask me. Overall, pretty good stuff. I think the only thing I left out was, and also this was kind of the peak of the Delirious, Daisy Hayes, Rick Titus thing as well. as this is when Delirious started to lose his mind a little bit more than normally is the case. So there's that on this DVD too. Just overall, just a really, really good show. Probably the second best show Ring of Honor has put on all year, which is still saying a lot because, you know, Super Card of Honor 3 was just so amazing, and this card is very close to it, to be completely honest. I would give this a 9.5. That's how good I thought this show was. This was just a very, very good show. So I've seen some people actually think this is better than Super Card of Honor 3. I wouldn't quite go that far myself, but I definitely think this was a very good show and definitely worth the money to pick up. With that, I am out. Later.